a new term coined, or a theory in biology, called selectively advantageous instability, may be something that not only is fascinating in regards to biology, but may apply to our health and lives, our fitness goals, our nutrition, how we can improve them, and how so, and what is this new principle coined by John Tower at the University of USC. Well, it says volatility in biological components such as genetic material or proteins may actually serve advantageous to the cell and organism in itself in their ability to adapt and evolve. And this is something, this sense of instability, this sense of advantageous instability in the sense of almost randomness, kind of goes against some classical theory in biology, right? As often things are shown to have some linear and logical progression. And some examples are, say, the nautilus shell, this ancient marine animal that has its shell in the shape of a volute that grows according to mathematical principles. Or take people that live in warm environments on average, that have longer limbs, that are typically narrower, that have greater surface area so that they can release heat in these hot environments. And conversely, people in colder environments typically have shorter and stouter limbs to conserve heat, right? And things like this make total sense. But does it also make sense to not make any sense at all? And to have some sense of what I like to call educated randomness. I think is a more transparent way of kind of dictating this principle. Well, no and yes, right? So what is really educated randomness and how I see it? Well, educated randomness says that if we understand how something works and we have basic core principles, then we can apply randomness and it may bode well for our success. But if we apply randomness without any understanding of these core principles, then it seems silly and it probably won't do us all too much good, right? If you don't understand the rules of some game or how things work and why certain things are important to do and what exactly the goals are, and you start to do random things, you think it's going to bode well? Well, obviously, probably not. But if you did understand the principles in chess, like control the center of the board and develop all your pieces and castle early and whatever it is, for example, and then you start to apply some randomness and create different lines that are abstract that maybe the opponent won't comprehend well and may put them in a difficult situation, well, then it seems to make a little bit more sense. So how do we apply this principle of educated randomness, which I think is so fascinating, to health and fitness and overall improvement in our lives, whatever our goals are? So let's look at fitness first. And I think the first step, so educated randomness. So educated, how do we become educated in terms of fitness? Really whatever your goals are, in terms of giving us a better chance to achieve them. Well, understanding the action of some muscle, right? Understanding the action of really all the muscles. And simply, you don't have to know the nerve innervation. You don't have to know, exactly all these what little components make up the muscle and things like that. I mean, you can go that deep, but even without diving that deep, if you understand the action, and we've talked about this at One Wellness before, know the action, and it will go a long way. Well, if you know that, okay, if I internally rotate, and I adduct or put the arm closer to my body and I extend, well, that's going to hit my lats, among other things. But say, just example, that's, the action of the lats. And so I know, okay, well, when I do a lat pull down, what's happening? Well, I'm internally rotated, I'm adducting, and I'm extending. Oh, so I should probably go this way a little bit and extend as well on the lat pull down, right? If I'm in this grip and I'm doing a row, right, I have two of those actions. If I keep it tight, maybe hit the lats. And so understanding the action can definitely go a long way, right? Now, on top of this, what is going to help you achieve your specific goals in fitness, whether it be stamina, improving endurance, increasing your size, improving your mobility, right? These are all things that, maybe we care about in general, or you just want one of those specific things or just a collection of them. Well, understand what goes into improving generally mobility. What types of movements? Do you have to go slow? Do you have to go fast? Do you have to do a lot of reps? Do you have to do fewer reps in order to achieve hypertrophy or the growth of the size of the muscle? You know, spoiler alert, it's a slow eccentric movement, a slow negative movement, right, on the way down. But is it time under tension that's going to do me a lot of good for my goals? You know, what is it? Does the speed matter? All these sorts of things will help you to be able to apply educated randomness to be successful in your fitness goals, right? Towards achieving them. So what are three things that I think personally could be applied as staple principles to achieve educated randomness in the positive sense regarding your fitness goals? Well, I think if you always do something that's different, right? Something that's different, something that's difficult, and if you're in full control of the movement. I think if you maintain those three principles, it really will go a long way. And of course, there are so many other ones, but those are three really big ones to me that I think now, if we maintain those, we can apply educated randomness, and it will probably bode well for our success to achieving our goals in fitness. So how do we apply this type of principle to overall health, to nutrition? Well, I think, you know, one major place to start, well, you understand staples and why they're so important. Why is it important to get 8 hours of sleep? Why is it important to go outside and do all these other things, right? But, you know, when you look at, what's up? Oh, thanks, Ma. I love you. This is super. What's up, Ash? How you doing, girl? What's up, beautiful? What's up, Moonbow Rabbit? Happy Sunday, everybody. So in regards to health, and nutrition and just, you know, overall wellness, I think it's important to understand how the systems in your body work, right? So understand the systems, understand how your liver works, like why does it do certain things? Understand your cardiovascular system. How does the heart pump blood? Like what's important for pumping blood, right? Why are certain nutrients important for making these things happen? Why are certain toxins no bueno? What do they do that's so bad? And again, you don't have to dive super deep, but gain a basic understanding of how these organ systems work and how, if you manipulate them, you know, it's gonna bode well, or conversely harm you, you know, in terms of your goals in health and fitness, right? So why is it important to get outside? Why is it important to move a lot, right? Movement is medicine. And so what do I think are some staples that can be applied? As we said in fitness, it's different, it's difficult, and you're in full control. That could be applied to improving our overall health and wellness. Well, I think definitely in terms of food, everything you have should come from nature. I think that's very simple. And again, there are many other things on top of what I'm saying. I just want to give you some good examples and good staple foundation to kind of build off of here. Everything comes from nature. Get your food from as close to the source as you can, as local as you can, as unaltered as you can, not processed, not with anything added to it, right? Ingredients, look at the ingredients, and typically the fewer the better. Know what the ingredients are. If you don't know what it is, you probably shouldn't be having it, right? Cook everything. Cook pretty much everything. And, you know, these again are simple rules that if you follow them, you can kind of go off the grid and apply some of this randomness because you're well educated on, okay, what typically in general will make sense and bode well for my health. Okay, movement is medicine. That's another one. You want to move a lot, right? If you want to get outside, okay, you want to be outside. You want fresh air. You want sunlight. You don't have to know that's with vitamin D, and that's because of, you know, bone health and immunity that supports and hormone production and skin and hair health and all these other things, but without knowing all the functions of the B vitamins and that they're cofactors in energy metabolism and the fact that they're involved in DNA formation and red blood cell production. You don't need to know all that if you're abiding to these principles, right? Because now you've applied this randomness, and by maintaining these principles, you said, okay, I had, you know, Shane said a lot of healthy fats and meat, but also getting soluble fiber. A few more are your daily amount of protein is a minimum of your body weight in grams. You're going to count fiber. You're going to get at least 35 grams of soluble fiber a day. That's the, you know, recommended daily amount for adult men, and the recommended daily amount for adult women is 25, but it can't hurt to get a little bit more, right? And so if I'm getting, if I'm meeting this fiber requirement, am I going to be having as many simple carbohydrates, as many sugars? Well, you know, is someone that's abiding to these simple principles going to have soda when they apply to random? I could have whatever I want. Well, you can't. Well, why? You find the soda in nature? Right there, it already lost, right? So, some things might apply to one of them, but then so let's take an example of bacon, right? Okay, bacon, I could find it in nature, that's right, but is it processed, and does it have other stuff added to it, and maybe sodium nitrates and things like that? All right, it didn't make the cut. It's a processed meat. He said nothing processed, or I should say I said, if you decide to utilize these basic staple foundation, principles, that it doesn't make the cut, right? And so, these, and the fact that you're going to get probiotics every day, right? It's 50 to 100 billion CFU with a diverse species panel. That's colony forming units is CFU. And these are the bacteria in your gut that control literally like everything in your body. You're having that soluble fiber, you're feeding the gut bacteria. They're producing things called short chain fatty acids like acetate and butyrate and valeric acid and caproic acid. Typically acetate and butyrate are the most spoken upon. And they control really about everything in your body, your immune function, your mood, right? We've talked about 90% of serotonin is produced in the gut, right? We've talked about the fact that people with higher rates of allergies, higher incidence of allergies is correlated to lower levels of SCFAs, meaning they don't have as healthy of a gut, whether it be allergic rhinitis or seasonal allergies, right? Or whether it be atopic dermatitis or eczema or allergic asthma and all these other things. There is some correlation there, right? And you don't even need to know that is the point. You don't even need to know exactly what vitamins are in these lean meats you're having. You're focusing on fish and steak and chicken, and pork is okay too, right? And seafood in general and all these other things to get your protein, right? Well then, you didn't have to worry if you got it wild caught, as close to the source as possible, unaltered. What do we know there? Wild caught. Right? Because we didn't even have to say that at first, because you understand that I'm getting it really in the most similar regard to going out in nature and hunting it myself or picking it myself as I can. And so it's just going to bode well, right? So understanding these basic principles allows you to one day eat kefir, to drink kefir for your probiotics, right? Or kimchi, they're a fermented food. Right? Now, kefir has the most, so it's typically a great thing to have if you're somebody that's trying to improve your gut health. Sources vary in how many CFU they say. It's actually really interesting. Just on a quick note, some say like 25 billion CFU, which is about your daily recommended amount. If you're getting it from food, that's fine. Food first is another rule. Food over supplements, right? That's another big rule. Environment over supplements. Getting outside and getting sunlight instead of just having to take vitamin D every day, right? But if you can't have your kimchi or your kefir, right? One day you could have kimchi because okay, it met all these requirements and that I've set for myself, that I said, okay, if I abide to these, I can apply some randomness here. I'll go for kimchi this day. I'll go for sauerkraut this day because I know at least they fall into this category of fermented food. And I know at least they come from nature and they're not processed and they have good stuff in them, right? And so you can make it so simple as to what these staple facts are and principles that you abide to be able to apply educated randomness to be successful in whatever you do. And it doesn't just apply to health and nutrition. It doesn't just apply to fitness. It applies to life and all of biology. And it's so simple, but it makes a lot of sense, and in how it doesn't make sense, because biology itself isn't perfect, right? And so if everything were a complete linear progression and everything were just purely totally logical and not and there is a lot of logic to the educated randomness as I said it, with maintaining these staple principles, right? But even if you want to look at it just as Tower was saying, this instability makes a lot of sense in how something will adapt and evolve, because it's analogous to trying new things and you don't know what's going to work out. And often people, they come across some amazing new idea because they were just throwing things at the wall and eventually some stuck. And it was just trial and error, and they were doing all these weird, silly things. I forgot the quote. It's a great quote. I forget who said it, but it's something along the lines of like, if no one ever did anything silly, like nothing new and innovative would ever be found, right? And it's so true. So it's that, and it's also spontaneity in itself is healthy and brings us some sense of enjoyment, right? So I think it makes it more fun to try and reach your goals in health and fitness and overall wellness, because that's the reason I related to that, is because that's what this When Wellness channel is about, is giving you the tools to improve your overall health and your life, right? I think doing that in some spontaneous sense while maintaining these principles will make it more fun, right? I think it will make it more fun, and I think it will make it more interesting. But you got to remember, if you apply randomness with no education, it probably isn't going to bode well. But if you educate yourself first, now you're in a position where you can apply that randomness and be successful. So just such an interesting thing that I was reading selectively advantageous instability this morning, and this is a relatively novel thing, theory in biology, and it does challenge some classical theories. But you see a lot of things coming out now like that, like chaos theory. Like there was a mathematician last month who figured out the equation to randomness. Like it's not truly random. There is some sense of organization to it. So we're learning a lot that we didn't understand, and it just makes us realize that we could only learn more and more and more the more that we learn. The more I look up on something, it just makes me realize I don't know anything, and so we have to be open-minded and try to apply these new principles for our benefit, right? And because they're just fun. So who do we got on here? Say what's up. Hey, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you, Master Ben. OG up in here. He's a beast. Check him out. Slim Shreds. At Slim Shreds. Andy with a difference. What's up? J Pitt, BK Ham, Guillermo. Elias Gabrielle. Ma, what's up? Meg, how you doing? Derek, thank you. Mausoleum. Lola Christian. Ray, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? I love you, dude. I hope you're having a great day today. Happy Sunday. Happy this weekend. It's a fun, long weekend. Jonathan. I'm going to Max's for a barbecue soon. Rune, Texas. Movement is medicine. That's right. That's right, Ma. You're a great example of health. Yeah. Moonbow. Moonbow Rabbit. OG subscriber up in here. Marcus. Absolute beast, man. Appreciate the support. Sleep is so important. It sure is. It sure is. Donaliolos. Yes, we said what's up, pretty lady. Four Lick. Frank in the middle. Ivan, what's up? How you doing, young stud? Jay Malak, Tim Cook, Mane Moore, Fonzie, Danny Robb, G. Patrice, Gur Martez, can't shake the feeling, OG up in here. Edward Tobolski, been on bunch of times. OG as well, thank you. Being the first one on today. Quick to the gun. You get that award today. Brock the Man, how you doing? Good to see you on here. As for now, Johnny Go, and as a Voot, thank you for coming on. So we got for you folks. We'll see you tomorrow, baby. Not sure where, not sure when, but we'll see you then. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you very much, and happy Wend Wellness. We'll see you tomorrow on Memorial Day.